I want to talk about how to bring the past forward into our present life in a really positive way. Because imagine you're in a new relationship, and we all have pasts, we all have old experiences right back to our childhood. And a lot of those, there's a lot of triggers and emotional buttons inside of us that get pressed when we're in a new relationship, because these are our experiences with other people, and it tends to be the biggest reason that we have pain and disappointment and sadness and fear and resistance to anything new that's coming, because these things are stored inside of us. So sometimes we run into the problem that when we have a new relationship, we want to hide all those things. We don't want to bring them forward. We don't even want this new person to even know they exist, because maybe we have regret. Maybe we're ashamed of it. Maybe we wish we'd handled it differently. Maybe today we're different people and we kind of can't believe we ever acted that way. So we want to delete them and have them not be a part of our new life. The problem is they make up who we are. They actually are part of sort of a patchwork quilt of how we became this person right now. You know, in my life, I have so many memories of happy things, but a lot of sadness and a lot of regret and a lot of pain and disappointment that when I'm in a new relationship, or I'm in a relationship that's deep and safe and connected, things rise up to be healed, and it's a really good thing. So I want to just read something to you from Richard Powers' book, The Overstory, which sort of creates a different perspective and looks at who we are in terms of a tree and time. People have no idea what time is. They think it is a line spinning out from the 3 seconds behind them, then vanishing just as fast into the 3 seconds of fog just ahead. They can't see that time is one spreading ring wrapped around another, outward and outward, until the thinnest skin of now depends for its being on the enormous mass of everything that has already died. So let's imagine that. Imagine that the core of our being, or who we are, is just like a tree. And every experience we've ever had, from our childhood, adolescence, teenage years, marriage, things like that, even jobs, school, all are stored in each ring, each year of our life, right? If there are things in there that we can't look at, that we're ashamed of, that we're hurt by, that we're afraid of, it's like there's these voids in the rings, empty places, blacked out places, scabbed over places, things that we don't want to look at, but they are part of us. They are our inner being, right? This is why it's so important that when they rise, perhaps it's time to look at them. Maybe it's time to look at them with our current consciousness. You know, if we had things happen to us when we were 4 years old, we experienced them with the consciousness of a 4-year-old. The 4-year-old can't get away. They have no power. They can't change anything. So it's fear. There's a primal response of defense because there's nothing else they can do. Or maybe they shut down because they have no other power. But now here we sit in an adult body where we don't have to stay. We don't have to be frightened. And we can actually look at this experience almost objectively, right? We can actually even feel the sadness, feel the fear, feel the emotions, have the memories, but have them with this consciousness, this maturity, kind of like taking our childlike self, or our child self, in our arms and saying, it's okay, I understand why you built up this wall, why you developed this defense mechanism. I understand, Once someone said, but that's not who I am. I don't want to share that because that's not who I am. And it isn't who we are. They're just experiences that happened in our lives. And yet, those experiences are still recorded in the rings, right? So we don't want to pretend they didn't happen. They did happen, even if it was the most horrific, awful thing. If we bury it, it has a life of its own, and it's out of our conscious control. It's out of the light. But if we allow it to rise, even in bits and pieces, as we're able, as we become stronger, it's like our tree trunk fills, right? You can even imagine that if there's enough in our past that we are unsettled about or unresolved about, it's like the tree is hollow. And all that's left is the present day, which is the bark, or maybe the outer rim. But inside, we're hollow. So as we bring up everything from our past, bit by bit, in safe places, it could be a relationship, it could be a friendship, it could be with a spiritual teacher, it could be in all kinds of places where there is no judgment. There's only compassion for the soul, for the person going through it. And as we sort of own all these parts of us, it's like the inside of the tree trunk starts to expand and it starts to flesh out, and all of a sudden who we are today starts to make even more sense than ever before. And then all of a sudden, even the dark things, even the things that we have never been able to look at and really embrace about our experience so far, they suddenly become strengths. If we've really struggled, suddenly we have compassion for people who are struggling. And we may have a presence of mind if they come to us to go, I understand, instead of lecturing, right? Or if we've been really hurt and we've had a huge wall, and slowly through other experiences and experiencing the goodness in the world and the kindness of people, perhaps we've been able to drop that wall. Well, who better to help someone else who is also needing to hide behind a wall because of a difficult life? So then sort of every single bit, every ring of that tree suddenly becomes very important and very potent in helping others and in our own inner peace. When we meet someone who is actually whole, right? That every ring is okay. Even rings of regret, even times of what was I thinking? Or times when we maybe were taught to be ashamed of that, or even times of great resistance to others or opportunity or whatever. When we meet someone who kind of owns all that, we suddenly feel very peaceful. It almost energetically gives us license to own all of our stuff. Someone once asked me if I had fear when these things rose. And I'd say the answer is a bit of yes and a bit of no. You know, in relationships, we're very vulnerable, and especially if we really want it to work, if we really want this to turn out right, we don't really want to risk anything. But at the same time, it's almost like there's this awareness that there really is something inside. There's a sliver inside that's festering. I'm missing something. And I think in my heart, I know that if this comes out, it'll help. I'll feel a little bit more grounded and a little bit more myself, and I'll have access to more of my truth going forward. So there's a bit of fear because these experiences are sort of locked down with heavy emotion, or else we wouldn't have buried them if they were easy. So there tends to be this need for this emotional, pop of the lock on top, which seldom feels good. Well, it never feels good. It's It's never easy. But what helps is when there's something inside of you that knows that this is okay, that it's important, that this will help in the long run, even if right now it feels awful. Because then we really, really become who we are. Every single bit of us. Which I think really does come down to what, true self-love is. That, there's lots of parts of me that are really functional and awesome and uplifting and all that. And there's parts of me that have really struggled and suffered in this world. And they all fit together to make up who I am today. And that's pretty awesome.